Lisa Caputo is back with us right now. She's a senior advisor to Senator Clinton. You know, I guess I could play the same record over the other side. Senator Clinton can't seem to win people who are highly educated. What's the problem?
Well,
I mean it.
I think that's been a consistent, issue for her campaign. But let's talk about where we are, Chris, because Pat Buchanan raised it. You just raised it. We have a candidate in Senator Obama who everybody is touting to be the nominee, yet he lost West Virginia by, I think it was 40 points, outspent her there 3-1, lost Kentucky by what appears to be 35 percentage points, and outspent her there 5-1. He's not chipping away at the blue-collar worker vote. You can't have a nominee necessarily who can win the whole thing without the Democratic base, which is your blue-collar worker. I also respectfully disagree with Senator McCaskill, with all due respect. She said, the issue in West Virginia and the loss there wasn't really relevant because superdelegates kept coming out. But it is relevant, Chris, because people are still voting for Senator Clinton. And what's also relevant, I think that's important to note, when you see in the exit polls that a third of the people who voted for Senator Clinton won't vote for Senator Obama in a general, that's a big deal.
Why do you think that's the case?
I think that she's got a very loyal following, which is why she's staying in the race. No,
that's not the question. Why would people not vote for Barack Obama if they're voting in a Democratic primary?
I think that they're not comfortable. They're not convinced yet of his electability for the whole prize. Quite frankly, we saw it in the exit polls tonight. People identified experience as a key issue. Those people went with Senator Clinton. That's why you saw her in her speech make the experience and electability argument.
Can you imagine standing in line with somebody voting tonight or today in Kentucky, and an exit poller with a clipboard there asks the person in front of you, and you're a white person, listening to a white person, and they say, yeah, race did matter in this election. I voted for Hillary. To say that out loud is so candid, so odd, that I have to believe that a lot more people believe it and acted on it than admitted it. Did you see the numbers tonight that Nora reported that 2 out of 10 openly said that they voted on race? Now, I mean, common sense tells you that's a very difficult thing to say to a total stranger, some freshly scrubbed young pollster there with a clipboard in front of everybody to hear. You say race decided my vote. I mean, imagine saying that in public. Can't we assume that there are a lot more people that vote like that than admit it publicly? Isn't that reasonable to assume? And therefore, when I ask you openly, why are these people voting for a Democratic and voting in a Democratic primary, but openly saying they're not going to vote for a Democratic candidate, you got to think it's race. You just have to, because they're saying so.
God, Chris, I don't know. I surely hope that's not the case.
But they're saying so.
But you know what, Chris? Then that concerns me as a Democrat and as a voter and as a citizen of the country, because that means we as a country are not as progressive as we say we are about race in our country, and arguably about the role of gender in our country. And I think this whole Democratic primary has been a dialogue.
Has Hillary spoken out against racial prejudice lately, or just against gender prejudice?
Chris, she's been a long-standing...
I try to monitor what she says, and I'm telling you, you and I agree on this.
Yeah,
if a big chunk of the electorate are willing to say they're Democrats, and are willing to say they vote on racial lines, and are willing to say they're not going to vote for the Democratic candidate, if that candidate is African-American and they're white, you do have a problem here. It's an old problem. It's not a new one.
Here's what I do believe. I do believe, though, that she's staying in this race because I believe, contrary to what Andrea Mitchell said earlier, that fighting and uniting are at odds with one another. She's actually portraying to these people who are supporting her that she's fighting for them. And I think at the end of the day, when everything happens on June 3rd and decisions are made, I think because she stayed in, people are going to move. I think that she's holding true to them, and they're going to move and get behind the nominee. I do believe that. I want to believe that the Democratic Party will unite.
The danger is to the Democrats is that's a sort of short pass. They're going to throw a longer pass in the general. They're going to throw to Hillary because they don't want to vote for the black guy in the primary, but they're intending in that action to vote against him in the general as well. That's the problem area here for the Democrats.
I would really hope we as a party can do everything we can to get beyond any kind of bias that might exist like that, because that would be a disaster.
Thank you very much, Lisa Caputo, speaking for the Clinton campaign.
Nice
Thank you very much.
All right.